I can't find my other charger.
We live anyway. It's all good. We out here. What's going on, everybody? It is Lyrical Ones. This is episode 64. We are Wednesday, and it's West Coast time, so it's 8:46 p.m. For those that are seeing us live, I had put out the message on Twitter that you want to see my thoughts. Well, come and join us because we're gonna be talking about some things today. It is always a blessing to be able to be joined here by the incredible, the impeccable, the amazing Al Fluent. How you doing?
I'm doing well. We got a great producer too, Laburu. He's holding us down, and so I appreciate him
Hold
as
it down
well.
as usual in all
I,
his many
I
iterations.
that's right. The variants for real. That's my guy. Just relocated. So welcome to the Bay. Um, I'm doing well because I got first world privilege as a male living in California. Things can't be going too bad for me. Um, because I got a little bit of education, got a little bit of common sense, got some support in my life, got some community. Um, so all that is great. Just plugged in the new charger cable, and it works like a new charger cable because it works, and that's all I can ask for. Um, it's a wild, crazy world. But before we get into the wild, crazy world, I just want to say that I'm grateful to be here. I'm blessed. I went to Boba Guys today. This is not paid advertising for Boba Guys. Um, I went to get boba basically, and I got the strawberry matcha latte, and it's layered with latte and milk. I got the oat milk and the strawberry syrup with the boba at the bottom. And you know what? If you have it early at the bottom, it tastes like get that strawberry goodness. Then you stir it up a few times. You don't even taste strawberry. You just got matcha beverage with boba, and that's solid too. And I appreciate that. Green tea is awesome. Green tea is amazing. Um, and thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm getting back out into the world again. It's interesting to be outside. Um, Shout out to Figo. We outside. We outside.
That's right.
I'm back outside. Not in this form. My other form. You know, it's it's really an amazing time to witness what's like. Which is I'm witnessing a new world every day, and it's more prevalent because my whole consciousness was shaken up about almost what 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years in March. My whole consciousness was just battered, and I'm appreciative and so thankful that I can witness it, that I can communicate. Again, you were saying right the like identifying the however you see it, the level of luck, the level of fate, right, the level of divinity. There is there is something to be said, right, where I have to hold a level of skepticism of the beyond because I don't know what's to come. I just know what I'm seeing right now, and I'm appreciative of where I'm at in it because there's a lot where my heart, my compassion, and my empathy is being pulled, tugged, and stretched to. So, yeah, thank you for asking. It's quite a time. This is September 1st. We are in the thick of the mist of Virgo season now. September's, we got the August, the August Virgos, right? Shout out to them because there's some greatness there. But September is a different level of energy. I will admit, I'm not a Virgo, but I've been around Virgos my whole life. So, outfluent, back to you.
No, I am. what people who believe in astrology and the placement of celestial um, objects uh,
You
referred
mean
to as a Virgo. You
you
know,
mean
the
where
planets,
the planet
where the,
was when you entered this world?
where the planet when the planet is when I arrived to breathe outside of my stasis pod, my hyperbaric chamber, um, that that my mama built. You know, she built for me um, as I was training. You know, some 30 some years ago, 30 plus years ago, I was found myself training to come into this world and do my thing on my own. Found out how to feed myself pretty quickly, and it was on and popping from there. But as someone who relates to the Virgo season and some of the commonalities that exist between folks born in a certain time, and some of the energies that they expend, and some of their concerns and strengths and weaknesses, um, at their their lowest and at their highest, uh, you know, experience some of those things. And it's an interesting time. It's like for me, I feel like I'm every day is my best day, right? The best day of my life, and I'm trying to celebrate all the anniversaries of my life. The the same days come around each year, except for on the leap year we get some extra days. But I feel like I'm celebrating the anniversary of my first September, my first October, my first November, my first December, my first January, my first February, my first March, my first April, my first May, my first June, my first July, my first August. I'm still celebrating those as much as I'm celebrating my first day. I'm celebrating the first year every year. And I think that's pretty special for me. It's exciting. And the September Virgos, yeah, we got some cool stuff going on. It's it's pretty nice. Um, yeah, that's all I can say is it's a good time. It's if you want to talk more about it, you can join the Discord. Um, I got plenty to say about the September energy and how it compares to the August energy. Um, I'm so glad to be in September. It's a nice time. Um, it's just
You gotta appreciate what you are, right? You gotta embrace it and love it, right? You
well,
gotta love
I think what I'm appreciating though is the peace at yeah, it's the peace of having peace with who I am. And the folks I know that were born in September and the folks I know that's born in August, um, I know the ease and the difficulty that I have with all of them in terms of interacting with them and moving forward and progressing and like it's just different. And so I'm grateful for what September brings to the world. I'm so happy you guys are all here with me. You all are here. You folks are all here, not just the guys, the
everyone,
the non-binary and the spirits. Everyone is here.
all alike.
Um, all
And
all
like
all the community, all the tribe, all the folks. I'm glad that everyone is here in September, regardless of the time zone. Now we're all here.
that's real. We're all here. That's true. You're right. Yeah, no, I mean it's trippy. We were talking about music prior to this, right? And like one of the key Virgo artists who recently released a project, right? And how uh music, right, has this way of echoing in your mind. And this artist in particular definitely echoes when, when they get busy. And it was Nas, right? King's Disease 2 came out. And there's a lot of music coming out, right? There's a lot of humor in what's going on in you know, the music world, right? I love music, make music, hence the mass. This is the music me, right? I definitely have boundaries with my interests. They overlap, but now when it comes to the world we live in nowadays where you have to participate in a public forum. So, with that, right? It's interesting to see, right, these dynamics of these men, these people, individuals, Kanye, Drake, and how this very broad and, you know, you say what you want, but I feel like there is some truth in you being born at a certain particular moment and the influence it will have on you throughout your life, right? There is a hierarchy that exists, right? And I'm again faced with how I know what the hierarchy is, right? You won't sacrifice your heart to save your hand, right? But you might sacrifice your hand to save your heart, right? There's a hierarchy in that, right? And so when you are born into a hierarchy, right? We could get into, oh, well, what about people who abuse the hierarchy? That's people abusing the hierarchy. That's people abusing power, right? That's when your heart says, I'm gonna poison you. I'm gonna do something against you. Then you got to find a way to correct your heart, right? Um, but there's a difference between people who abuse power and then a hierarchy, right? There's a system, right? We all can agree there's a sun, and if you don't, well, it's all good. I'm interested in hearing why you don't think there's a sun that is very central to our existence. So when I think about the sun that's central to our existence and the moon and the stars and everything else, and then I look at these artists, they kind of fall into the information that I've gathered around where do they fall in this spectrum, right? This kind of universal scope of galaxies.
All right. Yeah.
And we were talking about, like, just the idea of how this marketing is going, the messaging, right? Like, you got, you know, uh Kanye, who, there's no length or amount of time, and this goes to a very common theme we've had been sharing recently around grief, right? And how Kanye's dealing with his grief when it comes to his mother, and now the grief of this public relationship that's now turned into, you know well, you call it whatever you want to call it, but it is a public relationship. It is a public kind of departure of a union. um and now you got Drizzy, Draco, Malfoy, who you know put out this album cover of 12 different women being pregnant, and the album's called Certified Lover Boy. And there's that perception of him, being this kind of icon of a generation in a lot of respects, right? Kanye is definitely an icon in his own respects, but Drake kind of, following after what was Kanye's legacy, still exists. It's still ongoing, but Drake has been able to carve his own lane, and rightfully so, in a very grand fashion and very distinctly. And witnessing this is escapism. The escapism is from what we're seeing happen because, again, right, Drake has ties to Texas. Drake has a child. Drake is also a multimillionaire, and is very um, has a really good network of people around him. When I think of celebrity and I think of people who handle celebrity well, Drake is one of the first people that pops into my mind when it comes to handling celebrity well. And I feel like that's because he has a network or a support system around him that can help him navigate and deal with all the challenges and adversity that will come his way,
Right.
right? Texas being a huge part of that support system. And now seeing what's going on with Texas, right? Hence, Drake's album cover has 12 pregnant women. And, he has a project that's supposed to be coming out at the end of this week. But right now, we're witnessing history being made in a different sense, right? Everybody's worried about whose album's going to be number one. Oh, man. But what about the women in Texas who don't have the support systems, the resources, or the wherewithal to deal with what they got to go through when it comes to, you know, every aspect of what it means to be pregnant, to be able to choose, to have a choice, right? On what is the scope? Where does one end and the other begin? And how do we put time frames and limits on people to the point that we now put bounties on women for a choice they're trying to make, for a decision they're trying to go through with. A bounty is going to be placed on their head. And someone can make $10,000 if outside of the scope of weeks, right? They're saying 6 weeks
Six
from what I'm
6 weeks.
reading.
Yeah, about 6 weeks with
About
the
six
fetal
weeks.
when the fetal heartbeat can be detected.
It take about what it's like if you found out usually you find out around 4 weeks.
Nah, nah, nah. Most of the time, people don't. Most time they don't find out much later than that. Most time, women don't find out.
Well, yeah, it could be 4 or 5. It could be
Even later, by
it could be
6 weeks,
yeah,
people don't.
right. I mean, yeah,
6 weeks oftentimes six weeks, people women don't know that they're pregnant,
yeah.
and so
It's not giving women
that's
a
that's
chance.
that's crazy.
It's boxing them into a limited window, if no window at all. Because yeah, that's right. Like if you're lucky to find out that early, it's literally a game of luck because every woman is different, right? No two bodies are the same, right? There's a lot of assumptions that can be made around what women experience when it comes to, and I'm speaking as a guy who is married to a woman, right? I'm speaking as a guy who, comes from a mother, has sisters, a part of a matriarchy, um, seeing so many fellow friends, exes, different women, young women, go through all varieties of challenges, barriers, obstacles, and yeah, that's making an assumption that all women can find out at the same time or have the means to find out or even have an inclination that something is going on, right? And then for Texas to say in our state, you have 6 weeks when some people may not find out after 2 months,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
It's like
Every person is
w-
different. We're
weeks
not
four
taking
to
that into
seven.
account.
Yeah, it's not taken into account, right? Some, you know, 3.5, 4 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, 7 to 8 weeks, 9 weeks for some, 12 weeks for others. Like, you just, there's so many, blogs and articles and like people sharing their stories. Um, and they've been sharing the stories, and it's really like a war on women. Um, it's just kind of wild because it's basically creating this anti-abortion militia, right? With a bounty, right? Like rewards, like, oh well, if I tell on somebody, right, I'm getting paid, and basically, right, you know, you punishing them. Like if someone's been raped, you punishing them for being raped harsher than you punish the perpetrator, the rapist, and of course it's jacked up, it's messed up, it's cruel. Um, it's insidious, it's disgusting, and now it's law, and it's because the Supreme Court, right, just let it happen, knowing it was going to happen. Let it happen. Didn't say anything about it. Didn't stop it. Didn't make a move. Didn't say anything about it. And it's it'll have like whatever proceedings happen if the Supreme Court visits it. They won't visit it until there's another case within Texas, right? And then they'll have a case to move on to overturn it, um, or because the ban itself is not based on like any it's not based on any case, right? It's just something that ended up on the ballot through signatures and the difficulty that it takes for people to vote in Texas, and the people that are going to suffer and are impacted are low income communities because, and especially women, people of color, um, because white women, they'll be able to get and find abortion care. We know that that's most likely going to be the case in Texas, and the politicians who got mistresses and girlfriends and and the folks that's in their lives think will be able to find a way, and it's really gonna say, well, if my well if someone wants to make $10,000 or make with his friend, right, they can attack someone, right? That's why it's like a militia. They can travel around and attacking women, attacking people who can get pregnant, and then especially people that they know, and then like pressure them into keeping or even deceiving them into seeking abortion care, all for the sake of making $10,000. That's insane.
I mean, it's insane, but it's normal. It's normal
Yeah, right.
because this isn't out the blue. This is, again, this was planned. This is orchestrated. This has been a hot topic issue that we've gone back and forth with, as a country, for a long time. And when you start to like, I've always looked at the incremental changes, right? Is at least, I hate saying it, but it's the truth. At least it's change in a direction that grants people more freedom, that grants them more ability, autonomy, the ability to choose and decide for themselves what's right for them, right? What harm are they causing to others, right? When you're causing harm to others, right, you're impacting a sense of harm or violence. You're disrupting in a way that is creating a negative out, outcome, output. Yeah, there's some parameters, there's some boundaries we need to have. There's some thresholds when you can't go no further. But when it comes to a person making choices for themselves, especially when they're not committing any type of harm to themselves or others, I've always seen us as a country moving in a direction where, we pride ourselves on freedom. So we're getting better at defining what those freedoms are and how they look. This is going in the opposite direction of that. This is regression. This is going backwards. This is the subtraction, right? This is the deduction. This is reducing. This is It's sad, and it's one of those things where it's like, what do you do? How do you, if you're in Texas, what do you do? If you're not in Texas, what do you do? Right? If I want to go to Texas, does that mean I need to stop? Right? Because the thing is, I look at protesting, but everyone has a different version of protesting. Me, I think of when they boycotted the buses, right? That was an economic boycott, right? That wasn't just a protest in the sense of I'm going to come and have signs. No, I'm going to march, but I'm also going to do something, which is I'm not participating in your economic, you know, increase, stability, dependency. I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm getting out of your ecosystem. I'll find a way. Now, Texas is a state. There's a lot of people who, my family's from Texas, so I have love for Texas. But there's a line that you have to find how to navigate for yourself, right? Is it you saying I'm not gonna go visit Texas and spend money at this in the state because the state is acting against, people's interests, right? Who am I to even say that? I'm saying it as a person who concerned about someone who may be young and unaware or doesn't have the education, access, support system, the community to understand the choices and the decisions that they're making. I consider people who are of under a certain age very vulnerable to a lot of circumstances in life because they weren't born into a situation where they had the safeguards. They didn't have the people around them to help guide them, right? So we try in society to have space for that because there's going to be some people who are either young biologically or young mentally
Yeah.
that they might need a little extra time before they decide what they're going to do by bringing someone into this world because you know um say as you may about Tupac, however you feel about him, there's a term, right? Thug life, the hate you give little infants, everyone, right? Y'all can paint the picture what F stand for. F off. So the hate you give little infants, F's everyone, right? And I think about that because that's a real thing. When people don't have access, the ability to understand what it is they need to do, the sacrifices they're gonna have to make when they bring in a life into this world, right? You decided to do something, you have a choice depending on the time frame of what, this isn't the right time. I have to pursue other means. You have a right. It's you doing it. Because those same people who are going to change the laws and the policies are going to be the same one, right? Who don't want to see you overcome adversity, poverty, poor, impoverished conditions, right?
Right.
It's a very it's not a this or that thing. It's all inclusive. Everything is connected. Everything is a part of this cycle that is made to oppress poor people, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm not even gonna say it about like I've tried my best to stay away from race, right? And all I want is some gold teeth and a Range Rover. I'm working on the Range Rover, so don't get it twisted. We out here, we outside and inside because it's safe.
But
But
but you're right. That's why, right, Martin Luther King was assassinated, right? Because
yeah,
he
they killed Martin Luther King because he was like, if I make it a poor people issue, black people gonna benefit. I'm just saying
right.
he
If I take
said,
the race out of it, right.
I'm just saying y'all put Martin Luther King in my classroom. United States, don't come after me for what y'all did. You did it. I'm not look, I just want a Range Rover and some gold teeth. Give me some spinners on that thing. Bring back to
I'm a
2000. Can
I'm a
we?
I'm a I'm gonna find you some spinners from 2000
We
2001,
will.
and
Some
I'm gonna
Dadas.
find you a used some Dada Supreme.
Dada.
Find you a used Range Rover on Auto Trader.
Nah, bro,
With
we got to get to what is that? 2023. Come on. I listened to Cash Money when I was young. It was 1999, and they was sitting in the 2005s.
bubble eyes.
Bubble Live. I know you missed us. Big Daddy out of room like Christmas, shining like a light bulb. Rich stuck, tell girl over here coming up in there hug. My guy ain't live than a big time. Then that's what we cut it off.
Then trying to put diamonds in my girl toenails. So she walk it be twinkling.
Twinkle, twinkle,
Twinkle, twinkle.
shining and glistening. I'm just saying, right? It's a poor people problem, right? It's poor people. Like,
Yeah.
look, they it's hard. We already discussed this. If those in power are willing to kill their own just to keep us down, I ain't trying to see it happen to nobody. I ain't trying to see it happen to no one. If they
Right.
willing to kill their own just to keep the two people on the screen down, right?
But that's the thing, right? It's not their own. They don't see it as their own.
Exactly, because they see themselves as elitists. They see themselves as another
It's,
class, another category, right? You right, right? So this is a poor
it's
people problem. I'm not saying I'm not even gonna say black, white, yellow, red, whatever creed, religion, belief. If
not
you fall in the spectrum of being poor in the country that is priding itself on just mega
cash
monoliths
money.
of excess money,
You're right. Like the reason why racism exists, right? The reason why slavery existed in the first place in America, right, was not about color, right? Because when slavery was abolished, there were still poor people. And so they didn't have to change their system so much at first. And all they did in in a couple hundred years since then was move the needle a little bit, but keep the same system, right? And so if you not go improve education, right, you not go make birth control cheap, right? You're not going to increase minimum wage, then every single parent, right? Every young parent, right? Every person who is struggling to get what they need or get what their children need, right? Is going to struggle and stay impoverished. And when you got headlines that say this, this $300 children allowance, right, fed 2 million children and kept another 3 million children out of poverty. It's like, where were these 2 million and 3 million? Where were these 5 million kids at? And how many did it take out of poverty? Because you got 2 million kids who are in poverty. If it's 2 million kids that are in poverty who are able to eat, when the allowance is done, they still impoverished. Their parents still going through the same thing. It didn't help them parents, get a better job or increase the wage. We could have saved that money and increased the minimum wage, like foreseeing change for the next couple years while the economy recovers. That's how you get the economy recovered. Instead of giving people money now, how about you just help them get jobs and improve the minimum, increase the minimum wage? You could do that, and then everybody that's working, everybody's getting jobs, everybody that's graduated high school and college, looking for work, who's moving out of houses, right? Can then, oh yeah, well, right. Never mind. It's the same system. I forgot. My bad. I thought,
you thought you was getting
I,
out.
I thought it is the same indentured servants, sharecroppers, the the overseers, the officers,
The prison
the
guard.
the prison guards, the correctional officers. Oh wait, they never mind. Thought we were somewhere else.
You really did. You was going in a whole other direction.
I was
You was wilding.
too many comics, man. Too many stories being told.
Much
Wolf
fiction.
tickets. Too much fiction.
I mean, but you bring up like I'm a Dan Price, right? I follow Dan Price on Twitter. Shout out to Dan Price because he showed what it means to go from being a millionaire to then being, to saying, okay, I'm be competitively equal with my my team, right? With my infrastructure, with my business, with my organization. Those that don't know, right? He was like, I'm a millionaire and I'm gonna cut my wages and I'm gonna try and get everybody paid $70,000. And what happened? It changed people's lives when people were able to start earning money where they could buy homes, where they didn't have to stress, right? They could start taking care of themselves, taking care of their health. They could start really investing in themselves and a quality life.
Right.
And people said it's not going to work. And all that happened was his business grew, it expanded, it went to other states and was able to replicate the success that he found by saying, me as the CEO or me as the lead of this company is now going to divvy up the wealth and divide it and split it and make it equal. What do you need to live comfortably? And let's all live comfortably. And people stay, right? They don't leave. There's no high turnover rate, right? People every 2 years, it's like I got to find the next opportunity, the next come up, the next thing. But when you have a level of care where people are thinking of you beyond just the individual, but the whole, right? You as a whole and everyone around you, that changes things, right? Me, myself, speaking from a perspective that, yes, I remember trying to start a union at a job I was in because I seen inequality. I was trying to make things fair. And then realizing when I left, people really wanted a union, but just the communication just never came together. Then going into a union, making changes that were sustainable, and seeing what happens when people who maybe don't know how or don't have the skills to negotiate. Because once I left, right, you can't really negotiate if you don't have no one that has a skill set in communication and negotiation, right? They got to the point where now people who work at my last job, they don't even know they have a union, right? They know they signed up for something. They just don't know how to engage or how to use it or where it exists, right? How to materialize it, right? And so for me, when I see these things, I know there's a way. I see there's a way. I've talked to my elders, I've had conversations, and I do introduce concepts and ideas that are different than what has happened. Or I take something that has happened that worked and I try to improve upon it for this time period, right? Without getting trapped in the past, right? Because, I mean, what is the youth other than the most refined version of ourselves? They're just a reflection of who we are in the purest form. They're without the fluff and all the extra stuff, right? And the thing is, we're looking at this situation happening in Texas where it's like these people in power, right, who are abusing the hierarchy, who are, you know, pretty much putting themselves in a position where they can just continue their dominance over people who are not lucky enough to be born into a situation, because that's what it really comes down to, right? We're perpetuating a culture in this country where you got to be lucky to be born into a situation, right?
Yeah.
People come from other countries and find success because there's things integrated into their culture that help them overcome the American culture that exists to then find and use the system as they see fit to achieve success. But we perpetuate and we indoctrinate and we get people so accustomed to this American culture, right? That then it becomes, well, who's the dominant one? Who's in power? Who's in the position to make what needs to happen happen?
Well, this thing, right? It's like it's not even like real American culture is like just is dehumanization, right? It's dilution of right humanity. Yeah, yeah, right, right. Of course we got military presses going on. We got military presses
You got to
anytime
maintain
we
your form.
well, right? Because if they want you working 8 hours out of the day, and then you need 8 hours of sleep. I mean, you got 8 hours to figure out what you're gonna do with your life. So You take out the travel time, then maybe you got 6 hours. You take out the time to eat from your 6 hours, from those 6 hours, that's breakfast and lunch, then maybe you got 4 hours. So you got 4 hours out of every 24 to pay yourself. And so I try to give an hour or two back to the community. So we here on Lyrical Ones, and I'm just trying to kill two birds with a stone or a single dumbbell, But it's so wild because I like how you say that the youth are us in our like purest form, because I really feel like I don't want to just talk about like capitalism, but commercialism and consumerism is diluting humanity. Because a lot of times what happens is when people come in, when they immigrate to America, their their perception of community is at a higher priority when it comes to serving the group and looking out for the group. And it doesn't mean they don't want stuff. It don't mean like they don't like nice stuff. It don't mean that they don't like education or that they are impervious to what's happening in America as far as consumerism or capitalism or commercialism. It's really like you said, like their culture sets them up. Their community, the community that they come in, or the community perspective that they show up with, enables and empowers them to overcome the struggles that are set up in the system, excuse me, to press people down. And as they identify and acknowledge those systems, they they have a support system behind them that says, if you commit to our tribe or our community, we will support you. And so if you're at working age, you work and contribute to the community. If you're at school age, you're they would ask you to focus on school and then also maybe contribute to the community, right? And then if you're at a retired age, right, you're still asked to contribute to the community, right? Your the elders are not there just to be served and fed and retire and travel, right? They're still giving back to their community, whether it's through, right, childcare, or it's through income of some kind, right there, or right, housing and accommodations, like whatever it is, like the focus is still on contributing to the group as a whole. And the message in America is, right, watch your own back, right? Pull yourself up, look after yourself, right? Do what you do and make it work for you, right? Not help the next person, not pay it forward, not save what you can so you can share what you have. And it puts folks at a deficit, right? To where, right, it's like in nutrition, right? If you put yourself at a caloric deficit, right, you lose, right? If you, right, and a lot of times people are operating with excess, so right, losing is their goal. But if you're operating at a deficiency already and you're looking to gain, right, then you need to pull from multiple sources. And so then you need to educate yourself better on what those sources are. And a lot of times people know that they're operating at a deficit from their experience in childhood or how they grow up, and sometimes they don't know that they're a deficit, right, until they visit a friend's house, right, or they have an experience with another family and they say, oh, we operate in a deficit, but then they're not taught the sources that they need to pull from to get excess, right, or just to get at a healthy level of resources, right? And so the resources for your body, right, are nutrients, right? The resources, right, in life to navigate America is right currency, it's knowledge, it's human capital, it's community and support and mental strength and health. And folks are not even being taught that that's what they need to navigate this world. Instead, right, red bottoms are important, right? Like Fenty is important. Not the concept of
Survival.
going right, right. Survival is important, and a lot of times the most important like need as you triage each day is their focus, as they navigate the world and looking just for survival, right? The skills that they learn are based on surviving, not thriving, right? It's like when I'm at zero, how do I get to one? When I'm at zero, how do I get to five? And expecting to get back to zero, right? How do I get another five? Right? How do I get a dub? And expecting to get back to zero again because that's all they know, right? The habit of saving, the habit of community and operating in a community, operating in a group where everyone pitches in, is can only it either comes out of survival or it's taught somewhere. And a lot of times the experience in America, you don't get to learn that.
It's almost like it's by design. Is this either, you know what it brings up? It brings up Afghanistan. I'm saying that because either there are people who have something at stake for how things play out, regardless of the outcome of who's impacted in a harmful, negative way, right? Whether it's actually disclosed and said out loud, or it's deduced by reasoning and logic for the outcomes that you see constantly happening.
Right.
There's something or someone or some people who are strategically working towards the destruction of whatever, right? In Afghanistan, we see the fear of people who are trying to leave and flee what they see as a one of probably the most harmful time periods that they've ever witnessed, right? Because that's the thing, right? You look at what has taken place or what has happened, and then you start to anticipate what's to come because of what's already taken place, right? Now you look at the United States and you see what's going on to the people who are in these impoverished conditions and circumstances, right? You can go back and think about redlining. You can go back and think about, I mean, even you don't even have to go back. You could look at the reports right now in terms of healthcare, right? Amongst communities that are poor, impoverished, that don't have access, they don't have a relationship, they don't have trust, right? Who are treated as a number and not as a human, right? There's a culture. There's many cultures. There's intertwining threads of cultures that benefit from each other and their way of existing, coexisting, or even in adversarial terms, right? And we think about survival, right? And survival is dictated by the perception of those in it. There's billionaires whose stakes on survival mean I'm gonna build a rocket. I'm getting the hell out of here, right? And then there's people whose survival is what? How am I gonna come up to eat today? right? How am I going to satisfy this hunger, or how am I going to satisfy the desire of my social circle because of what we're engaged in and the practices that have become commonplace for us, right? And without the basis, because I don't see a lot of room for conversation. I see a lot more for division, and it breaks my heart to see that. It hurts to know that people can support people with one cause, and then when it comes time for them to have another, people jump out the window with it like, oh, I ain't with that. Nah, I'm cool. I was supporting you on this. I ain't supporting you on that. I can't see where you're coming from. I don't want to see where you're coming from. I'm not gonna take the time to ask the questions to discover how you came to this because it makes me uncomfortable. There's people who, like, within my current confines of where I'm at, who say things that are racist in my eyes, but they don't see it as racist. They don't, because they can't see it. How can they? They not a person of color. They're in the dominant culture, right? They're a part of the dominant society that says, well, if it don't exist for me, it's not real, right? Even though you've never been on the sun, it can burn you, right? But because you never been there, psh, you have no conceptualization of what that means. And that's kind of how it feels. But now I'm like, you know what? I can't get angry because angry is going to lead me to a path of destruction. I'm trying to figure out where's the part where I try and see there's a piece there, right? This is me in my negotiation terms. Now, everybody has this, and I understand that. But there's a piece there where I can exploit, not for the sake of exploitation, but to broaden and open up,
That's
to
it.
discover why you got to this point of view. And then through that conversation with some compassion and some empathy, I can start to have you see things differently to gain another level of understanding because you probably never had someone like me talk to you. And I've been in that situation many times in my life. It's what brought me to this podcast, right? Someone witnessed, took part in the many different conversations I've been in where they're like, "Oh man, you know what? I There's a certain jutsu he got, and when it comes to the people and talking, he can make that jutsu real. So let's bring him into the fold." And now I'm here, and I don't. It don't stop. I continue to do so, right? So when I'm looking at these situations, right, it's not for everybody. Some people have a right to get mad, and you don't have to know how. One day, I hope there's a there's a space where you feel safe enough and feel comfortable enough to access the information to learn how do we get to change these perspectives, because witnessing what's going on in Texas, where women are being forced to be put in position where they're going to have to maybe put themselves in harm's way to seek an outcome, or they're going to have to figure out how to leave or flee if they're lucky enough to be in a circumstance where they can leave, right? When I think of all the historical situations and the experiences that have taken place where it's been oppressive towards people who are poor, right? Poor people, right? Because again, there's gonna be some rich black people who ain't gonna never have to worry about none of the laws or anything because they got it like that. There's gonna be some
Right.
rich Latin people who ain't gonna have to worry about none of that. They're absolved. They're indifferent. Trust me, it's hard for people to conceptualize because yes, you want to get so tied to what we look like, but let me be real. Coming from the city that I'm from, when I say the city, I mean San Francisco, the thing that unifies us most is our shared experience in being poor, our shared
Right.
experience of struggle, our shared experiences of adversity, our shared experience of being at a disadvantage. It's what brings us together. It's the reason why people come out here and be like, "Wait, why y'all all talk like that?" Because we
La
grew up
lucha.
together for real. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, I'm saying all that for the hope that it strikes something in someone to not feel defeated by what's happening, but to know that now is the time to be activated to figure out what to do, right? I had shared a thread on Twitter about how do we change the monotony or the repetitiveness of the engagement, right? Because that's the thing is, we repeat certain behaviors because it becomes the norm, but we ain't got no norm. There ain't no normal. The normal over. Normal's dead. It's ever changing, ever evolving, and I know
That's
that's
what it
scary.
is. That's what it's doing. and it's a lot of transitions, right? And you right, like it is so scary, and it's like you said, there can be change, and the way that people jump on and jump off of supporting people's is sad to see because like when you talk about artists, right? Going back to where kind of where we started about music and Drake's ties to Texas and this cover art that's, white cis hetero perspective of women and using emojis, and you say, well, he purchased this billboard space in all these cities and could have been talking about what's going on in Texas, could have been talking about what's going on in Afghanistan, could have brought attention to the struggle of peoples that look like him, right? But nah, what right? His focus is on right getting more, right? Promoting his project and navigating and working with folks who spend like him, right? Or who in the same tax bracket, right? And in doing that, he appeals to and panders to right folks who have less than right who are poor, and right they find identity in artists from their area, right? So they have a shared identity because those artists then talk about their struggle that they relate to, right? So then you have this shared identity. So you say, oh well, I like these artists from the Bay because they talk about the experiences that we've shared, um, that are common in the area. And so they're part of my identity. So then a billboard comes up and mentions some of these artists and says, "Oh, well, I like those folks. Maybe this is something for me to listen to. Maybe I can hear some stuff that again that I can relate to that talks about my experience from a voice, that came out of a struggle that's similar to mine." And that works great for music and entertainment. But when it comes to progress, folks don't look for people that relate to them, right? They don't look for people who have been through the same struggles that they've been through, right? They look for empty promises, right?
Or
They
they're
don't
looking
they
for
don't
politicians.
well, yeah, they're looking for politicians, but the politicians, right? They don't talk about, well, they do tell stories of their origin and their past, but they don't really talk about how the decisions and the votes that they make will impact the people who are struggling the way they struggle when they were starting out. They allude to it and create these empty promises. I appreciate user La Lids on YouTube. That's the homie came through and brought up survival for us. uh, Appreciate all the viewers on Twitch, Twitter, Facebook Live, YouTube Live for tuning in, listening, and the folks listening who may not be listening live and checking us out later on Spotify. If you're not watching, that's all right. We appreciate you. And when we post about it, make sure that you comment on YouTube or Facebook Live and tell us what you think about some of these issues, because we have to be the one that creates what the Nova Corps and the comic books call the world mind, where we pool our knowledge and our wisdom together to access it, and we don't need an internet to do that. We could have always done that with conversation.
Conversation.
We could have always done that with communication, right? It's like before there was the internet, before there were newspapers, before technology changed the way we interact, where we didn't talk to someone to get the news. We waited till the news told us what happened. Um, and before that, right, we would have conversations, and it wasn't gossip, right? It was current events, right? It was the word around town. And when you heard the word around town, you would then go get more information about what actually happened from multiple sources. So you wouldn't just believe one person, you would go have a conversation and check and compare notes with someone else. And somewhere along the line, right, technology put us in a position where we didn't have to compare notes no more. And wherever you got your information from was a credible source if you believed it to be. And then you would dig your feet into a trench and stand your ground on that belief, because that source that you may not even know personally spent some money to be in your purview, that you could hear the information from them first, and then you could believe it. And we still have time to talk to each other. We still can do that, but things are changing rapidly, where we may not be able to even talk like this to each other. So, lyrical ones, all of us who have a story to tell, I appreciate you all, that the many billboards that we have through social media and in our lives, that we use those to bring attention to what matters to us, um, whether that be for us to move past survival into thriving, or to bring attention to the struggles of others, that we may be able to impact and affect change through the voting season and where we spend our money. Like we said before, we vote with our dollars. And as we see people pursuing their dreams and creating businesses, at a certain point, the dreams of a young inner city child or youth becomes a reality. And when it reaches a certain production level and a certain tax bracket, they are no longer a child from the inner city. They are no longer a youth from the inner city. They are uh, a business and a corporation, and they sell those businesses, and then they move away from the inner city. And the people that buy those businesses fund some of these laws that are designed to put you down, to keep you poor, to keep you from chasing your dreams. And it's important that we look to each other to keep creating, because we can impact the markets, we can impact the market shares, we can impact the culture and the worldview, um, of how people see us as a country, and then also how we see the rest of the world as a country, how we see the rest of the world. We can do that by working together. We can do that by listening to each other. Um, comparing notes, communicating, and really like sharing the lessons that we've learned. Um, I feel like my lessons should not be a secret. Um, I learned so many things through interacting with people that I feel like my lessons should be a secret, and so that's one reason why I enjoy being here. Um, because I also get to then learn lessons that Cineo and some of our community have learned, so that we can create that world mind that has access to all that any of us have been through shared knowledge and experiences.
That's real. That's real. For those that are going to listen to the audio version only, I was snapping my fingers as he said it because it's real. Those lessons are shared. That knowledge is accessible, and it's at no point is this trying to come across as harmful. It can be disruptive. It can be very challenging. So shout out to the friends in my life who I've had over time who have challenged me and I've challenged back, and we've never backed down from a challenge. You know who you are. But, more importantly, yeah, I think it's a time for activation, a time to stay pushing forward and yeah, to be disruptive, to not do what's been done if it hasn't resulted, if it hasn't given you results that were beneficial, that added, that didn't take away, that didn't take, you know, that didn't negate, give a negative sense of anything. I mean, it's a very unique time, as it is all times, but more than ever, this present modern time, I mean, whew, one for the ages.
So if you look on some of the technological the maps that map storms and fires and the winds around the planet, um, you can see that the world is basically on fire. Or in New York and New Jersey, right? Hurricane Tropical Storm Ida has made its way up to the East Coast from the south after spending some time as a hurricane, and the subways are flooding in New York, and somebody has reached out to the Federal Trade Commission to let them know that they need to investigate McDonald's because the McFlurry machines are often broken. Somebody was like, I'm not gonna make this myself. I'm not gonna make a McFlurry myself. I'm not gonna buy a bag of M&Ms. I'm gonna buy a bag of Oreos, put them in a sandwich bag, crush them up, get a blender, and blend my ice cream, make soft serve ice cream to put it in a bowl and put my own toppings on there. I want to get it from McDonald's, but every time I go, I've been to 3 McDonald's in my city, and they always broken. I can't get a McFlurry. They on the menu, but I can't get one because they always broken. So somebody contacted the Federal Trade Commission. So the Federal Trade Commission is launching an investigation into McDonald's and the reason why they, their McFlurry machines are often broken. Some people are saying that it's because the machines are complicated and complex and hard to to navigate as well as difficult to clean.
Not just that, they're made to be serviced because there's a lot of money in servicing equipment. If you have something that you bought and it doesn't break down, it's a good product. But then again, your product was probably made in 1972. So, since and money has become central to almost every facet of the world, well, people want to make money. They make products that are disposable or serviceable. It's not an illusion why your phone starts to break down after a year and a half to 2 years. There's no illusion behind that, right? You are opting into a contract, a license agreement with so many different things in this world because we don't take the time to step back and say, no, we got to say yes. We got to go. It's the consumerist American agenda. This is an illusion. This isn't nothing, they've integrated consumerism into every aspect of life. I'm fighting against it every day. I'm trying, right? I'm trying not to be a walking billboard and advertise for them. I'm doing the best I can. It's difficult because I was raised in this and I've seen it destroy many,
Yep.
to disrupt many in a way that has been extremely harmful to their longevity, to their sense of well being. And it's crazy to know that, yes, there's a flood and people can't even get a McFlurry. And it's crazy to know that there's women who will be pretty much accosted, assaulted in every sense of the word because they have bounties on their heads. Because
Yep.
there's a limited window of time for them to make a decision that can impact the rest of their life and future generations. This is a wild time to be alive, and I'm hoping people stay engaged, have conversations. We're here for it. Lala Liz, thank you for holding it down and coming through. It's important that we are able to have these conversations and to have an exploration to come to some mutual understanding because I'm all for it. I'm looking for it. So, Affluent, any final words, final thoughts for people right now?
Uh, for everybody headed down to Burning Man, be safe out there. Um, you know, if you know what that is, if you don't know what it is, if we get somebody coming back from Burning Man who did some art out there, we'll get them on the podcast and talk to them. If you know somebody who's out there creating art,
Who actually
um,
is trying to burn the man and who ain't the man going to burn the man? Because there's a difference. There is a
it's
difference.
well, it's a lot of different experiences that folks can have in Burning Man, and you know, it's a California thing because of the location, but people come from all over the world to experience, you know, their time in the desert. And so yeah, I just want folks to be safe on their way while they're there and on their way back, and look out for each other and keep the spirit of why it existed, why it was created in the first place, why it started in the first place. You know, and just be mindful of what's going on in Hawaii even. Just like there's a water shortage, you know, it's a there's a shortage of space in the hospitals. So if you can afford to not go to Hawaii, I urge you not to do so for a time until they get some things taken care of. The governor's asking for people, tourists, to not show up for till October, and
Stay
maybe you have
home.
plans. Maybe you have plans, and maybe you ain't gotta stay home. It's but just be mindful of try to be mindful of the way that our leisure can impact others and harm others lifestyles,
Be
and,
negligent.
and yeah, sometimes we can be negligent in in pursuing our own balance and pursuing our own relaxation and pursuing our own needs. We can be negligent of others, and we may not see it all the time, but we can be in relationship with this earth and with each other just by being mindful that we all deserve a space and the energy and the time to find our peace. That's all, man. What you got to say?
Yeah, I'm concentrating my anger into pure joy by saying, people, please just think of how what you do will impact others. Think about how it will impact you. And I'm hoping it's not in a way that is harmful to you or others. That's really my hope, right? To not to not cause harm to yourself or others. There's a difference in being disruptive in progress for, growth, and in progress for reparations, for repairing the harm, for restoring, right? To make sure that we are making things better, right? To be helpful to yourself, to others. But if we're going in that direction, please be mindful. Please think carefully, critically. Understand how it's going to impact those around you, because you never know. And so yeah, with that, you know,
One, 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 one.